Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at a Seraph Haven deck. We've covered quite a few Haven decks because, like Portal decks, there are a lot of different variations right now, and giving them all a fair go was exactly what I'd planned to do, considering they're probably the two classes I have the most cards for when it comes to variations, so definitely some of the easiest ones to do videos on currently. Of course, we've thrown in a couple of other decks here, like Blood and Dragon, but so far the most popular ones are probably going to be the Haven and the Portal ones because they're probably the ones I can do most consistently. But either way, we're actually covering a pretty decent Seraph deck, honestly. So you run either of White Wing, of course, because that gives you the chance of drawing Seraph an extra 3 times. You probably want to run 2 Zeros in this deck. I do only have 1, but that seemed to work just fine, as these Aethers do a wonderful job at pulling that on turn 9 instead. And of course, everything else is just kind of tailored to work, so you don't really need a lot in this deck. It's not crazy, it's mainly just about board control. I mean, most of this focuses on that, and of course keeping the tempo going over and over again. It was definitely an interesting variation, and I wanted to give it a fair go, so we're going to get right into it and take a look. Alright, so our first matchup is against Portal. Portal still being quite a strong class. As the days go by, I'm slowly realizing more and more what kind of Portal will be decent. And I've still got a lot of testing to do in regards to Portal Craft with different variations, seeing which one's going to be overall better. Whether the new Omen is worth it, or whether it's just better to go with a straight up deck, like some of the previous videos. So starting off, good turn 1, Globe of the Stairways. No really good turn 2, which is a little disappointing. We're also not running City of Gold because this deck doesn't need it, as Seraph doesn't really benefit from it, and there aren't many other amulets in this deck that could really benefit from it. So we can pretty much just play what we want. Unlike the next video you're going to see tomorrow, as we're actually going to be covering a Unlimited Haven deck, which is actually more City of Gold orientated, which is a little more interesting. So Torrent, plus the extra clear off that, and an extra draw. I mean, to be fair, that looks like a pretty decent way to do things.
Kids these days have no manners.
So Portal going hard on the draws isn't a big surprise, kind of expected. The draw 2 card there is actually pretty insane, no matter how it's ran, just because of how good it is. But Priest is going to do a wonderful job of this, cleaning up pretty nicely. We did hold off playing the Iron Fist. I didn't feel like this turn was the turn to go for it, as there wasn't a decent body to really hit. I'd much rather hit something with a bit higher stats. So I was willing to take an extra bit of damage. Alright, and a nice comfortable Star Torrent, and this time I decided to do it mainly because I can go for a full clear, which will put us well ahead on board. Of course, we see Omen of Destruction this time, which is a fairly disappointing thing to see after you've just played out your potential clear of it, so definitely one way to go. Now I need to come up with a way to deal with this without losing out. And Unicorn Knight is actually a pretty decent way to go. And a Mystic Ring on a Hallowed Dogma, going for an extra draw. Of course, I should have probably kept the Hallowed Dogma, thinking about it further, because that would have gave me a guaranteed turn 10 lethal, or well, potential turn 10 lethal, provided they clear my Lapis. But Omen of Destruction still being a pain, especially when they play a second one. Not a huge shock though. So I go for Apostle of Repose, not really thinking about the fact that it's not going to be able to actually kill anything here. But at least we get Realm of Repose to go up, which is a fairly decent thing. So Destruction and White comes down. Luckily we're not actually worried about them healing, because our main win condition doesn't even require their healing.
I shall guide you to glory.
And again, I make the sort of mistake that I don't attack, but I mean, it's still pretty fine because we're going to be defending pretty well. Now our main problem is we pretty much die next turn. So this is one that interested me. I actually attacked with that, which is not the best thing I could have done. I then attacked with the 2-4 to get rid of this. but then Realm of Repose still activated, which is really interesting because according to its stat, it shouldn't actually do that. It shouldn't activate upon having attacked this turn, which I attacked with 2 followers. So definitely an interesting interaction there. I'm going to assume it's a bug, but it was definitely interesting. I couldn't replicate those results, so I don't know whether it was just the specific interaction there, but it was a very odd one for sure. So we're actually going to get to trigger this all the way down. I had to take the chance of dying to get this to go off, but worked out just fine and gave us the successful win. Next up, we are against Shadow. I haven't seen a lot of Shadow, and I haven't actually tested Shadow myself yet as of making this video, but it's definitely a deck that I want to give a go. I actually crafted up a couple of Grimoires just the other day because I knew that I'd want to try Shadow soon. Unfortunately, it looks like Shadow's gone even more legendary heavy, at least in the variations I've seen, so it's going to be difficult for me to do a video in rotation about it, but Unlimited might be where I'll cover it, as we did craft up some new Cerberuses as well, so we've got a couple of those to mess around with. So City of Gold is actually good pretty much no matter what on turn 2, as you can play it as a 2-drop, or you can just skip your turn 2 and it'll come out on its own. So just as a one-off, City of Gold is pretty much the ideal card. Of course, I did just realize we're actually playing the wrong deck. That can be a little sneak preview for you guys for our next video. Just because, pain in the ass, little replay settings here, because I was covering 2 Haven decks at the same time. So that's just a small preview for next time. We've actually got our next game here, which is going to be against Rune. So I do apologise. Sometimes that sort of thing happens and we load up the wrong one. And we start off with a pretty garbage hand, honestly. Not a great way to get into the start of this match. So we go Insight. Yeah, I'll take an Insight. Insight's fine. It's a pretty nice turn 1 for them, but it's still not bad. So Unicorn Knight I've actually kind of fell in love with as a card. The 1-3 stat line is pretty great for being a defensive card against aggro, and the potential clear for the 3-drop is really great. I haven't really liked the actual Unicorn, but everything else is really nice. Now using our healing is going to really help us out in the long run. And we can quite easily go for Moria Corium. So I did attack with both, foregoing the healing this turn. Didn't really feel like it was entirely necessary. And next turn, we can go for the Realm of Repose. Even though we don't really need it this early, I should have probably held on to it, but I felt like, we'll play it out so we can defend this 1-4 against any kind of Evo threat. Especially since we were going to get the proc on the Aquarium as well, which is going to be fairly decent. So I go for the early Aether because I know that I can't pull the Lapis with it since we've already got a Lapis in hand for turn 8. So being able to use that early was going to be a much bigger advantage to us.
You're done for.
But of course they get Light Mage, pretty much a perfect play at this point.
Don't you think? Was I helpful to you? Take your seats.
And a little disappointed to see this board, as this is going to be a really difficult thing for us to deal with outside of just playing Beacon, which doesn't really feel like the best play. So the advantage with this deck is you can actually play completely passively until you reach your Lapis, which is great. You don't actually need to do any real damage to your opponent's face, unless you kind of want to. Which is a really solid way to play this deck, and probably the way I enjoy playing it the most. So I go for the Lapis because with the stats they've got on board, they can pretty easily deal with this, and if they leave it up, we've actually got a 9-8 beat stick. I'm definitely wishing I could draw my own destruction cards, as that probably would have worked out better, and they actually did decide to kill this off. They're going to go phase for 4, and I was a little worried they might have something decent to play out of this. I mean, Mysterian Riot into a couple of low-cost things like this Missile and potentially another card would have been dangerous, but Lucky for us, it didn't seem to matter as we got our double Hallowed Dogma and our Omen of Repose to finish this game off. I've actually really enjoyed Omen of Repose. I knew I'd like him as a card, I knew he'd be a lot of fun, but a little worried about his ramp, but it doesn't really matter if you play him late game anyway, so always a nice advantage to have. And these Hallowed Dogmas really working out for us.
Become victory. Impressive. Looks like you won.
So while I think an unlimited variation of this deck could be a lot more consistent, I still don't think this is a bad idea. This runs fairly alright. It might not be the most competitive deck, and I'm still thinking Tenko is probably stronger as a Haven deck, but overall it was a lot of fun. It's a different variation on Haven, and it definitely introduces some of the new cards, which is always a fun thing to do this close to the new expansion that's just come out. So if you guys did enjoy the video, hit the like button and subscribe. You can find the deck list in the description below. Until next time, see ya.